Hi, everybody. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards. Welcome and welcome back. If you're an old hat, an old hand, welcome to Sunday Conversations. And today we have a return guest because you all loved her so much last time. I thought I would bring her back. And for those of you who don't know her, I'm going to reintroduce Sheilaa L. Hite. Uh, she came on, when was that, Sheila? December, maybe?
I think the end of December,
End of
somewhere,
December.
yes,
So
towards the end.
it's time.
Mhm.
And again, she's an astrologer. And so we're going to look at what's coming in this next season or two, spring and summer. But let me introduce again Sheila to you, or for the first time if you are new to Sheila. Sheilaa L. Hite is a world-class astrologer, tarot master, intuitive, spellcaster, medium, author, and all-round magical being, and I will attest to that. She is indeed. As a certified life coach and life skills mentor, she specializes in helping her clients make their dreams come true. She's also a board-certified hypnotherapist and past life regression guide. A naturally gifted intuitive, she was born with the ability to see and interpret information from the ethereal plane, bringing practical solutions to both spiritual and worldly issues. She has an accuracy rate of 95 to 100%, which is, I mean, damn good, and is
Yes.
featured in Paulette Cooper's book, The 100 Top Psychics in America. As a catalyst of the soul and mind, her extraordinary ability to recognize, integrate, and align the energies of the four creative realms have made her mastery at teaching others how to turn lead into gold legendary. Through her company, Odysseys, Grand Travel Experiences for the Heart, Spirit, Body, and Mind, she conducts tours and leads retreats to Egypt, France, Scotland, and other inspiring, beautiful places throughout the world. And you're going to hear about her next Odyssey, which is coming up. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. So, Sheila, welcome back.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be back. Yes.
It's so good to have you. Everyone loved you last time. You were very clear and informative and instructive and really, really helpful to people navigating the energies
Good. Mhm.
that time. And so now here we are again.
Yes. Yes. Or here we are still.
Here we are
So,
still. Here, yeah, not again. I wish there had been a hiatus in between, but yeah, no, here we are still. And so uh, we have been through the first 100 days of this collective nightmare and are about to go into the warm months with this uh, what pall cast over us all.
mhm.
It's a poem. You like that?
Yes.
And so I really wanted to have you come on to look at the energies of the spring and the summer, particularly in regard to our American political landscape. There are
Mhm.
certain events, for example, we have uh, we have the question of birthright citizenship. Is that going to be
Mhm.
overturned? In fact, I was just watching the Supreme Court or listening to the Supreme Court arguments on that,
Mhm.
and so that's certainly something people are concerned about because we've always had birthright citizenship.
Right.
Uh, there is the Stephen Miller of
Mhm.
Nazi fame, who
Mhm.
has talked about the fact that they want to get rid of habeas corpus. Habeas corpus, for my audience, is a writ, W-R-I-T, which says that you cannot be accused of something and put in jail um, without without cause, um, without a reason. I mean, that seems kind of not just legal, but it seems common sense. But they want to get rid of that. And that would, of course, mean not just that they throw people whom they say are immigrants and therefore terrorists um, in jail and then out of the country deported, but American citizens as well, because they wouldn't have to have a reason. So habeas corpus is a thing.
Yes.
Another thing that's happening is June 14th. It
Mhm.
is. the birthday of you know who. I like to say you know who because in case I get dinged by YouTube.
Mhm.
You know whose birthday, and he's decided that that's a national holiday. It's already a Flag Day, so I don't know who thought that was a good idea. It's birthday beef,
Mhm.
same day as Flag Day, but it's also the day apparently that the military has agreed that he can have his military parade.
Mhm.
Um, the destruction to DC streets notwithstanding, but anyway. And so, of course, the next big 50-51 protest, 50 protests in 50 states for one cause, is scheduled for June 14th.
Mhm.
And so that could be a potentially incendiary kind of a day. I mean, I think that would be a lovely day to declare martial law if one were called upon to do so.
Mhm.
Um, but I just think I've heard that it's going to be a hot summer. We'll just call it that, and I don't mean temperature.
Yes. Mhm.
So, what can you tell us about what energies are coming in for the spring and the summer, early summer?
Well, we can talk about the energies that are coming in for the spring and summer specifically. Um, However, the thing that I find interesting is those things like the parade and the possibility of martial law and habeas corpus being thrown out. It's kind of like meat to the masses.
Hmm.
And wherever you throw the meat, the masses gather.
Hmm.
So these are things that definitely they're things that they can do, and I feel they're going to do and they plan to do, but they're also used as distractions.
Hmm.
And if we can have our attention divided, or we can have our attention distracted, then we won't be whole. We won't actually see them from the perspective of the whole.
Hmm.
And we won't also move in a whole fashion
Hmm.
to deal with what they're up to. If we keep dealing with the meats was thrown here and the meat was thrown there, which we do need to do, but that's not the top thing. So I've done several charts. I've done charts for the parade. I've done charts for the idea of disappearing the corpse. Habeas corpus is really what they want to do is change that to disappearing us.
Right.
I've looked at all of these, but I keep going back to the thing that we need to be focusing on. We need to focus on the the natal chart of the US,
Hmm.
which we talked about before and we'll talk about again, and the inauguration or the time that he took office officially.
Okay.
Because that combination of charts is really what's going on.
Okay.
Everything else literally is meat for the masses.
Okay. Okay.
And we can look at because if just talking about the parade, we'll talk briefly. I'll get more into that as we go along. But I've done a chart for the parade. Um, Mars, which rules military, Mars and Pluto rule military, and Mars rules action. So there's your parade, taking steps, is in Leo, which is the sign of the sun. It's the sign of the showpiece. It's also the sign of the heart. And Leo, so Mars in Leo is in the 12th house. When you look at you separate the military parade on its own,
Hmm.
it's in the 12th house. And the 12th house is the house of what is hidden, what is behind the scenes,
Oh,
what's back here and you can't see. We're looking this way, but the 12th house is back here doing whatever it's doing.
okay.
And that Mars, so that parade isn't simply about the parade.
Right.
Now, when I look at the whole chart from the time he took office, and that's actually good for the whole time that he was in office. It
Okay.
doesn't have an expiration date. When I look at this chart, the time of the parade, I see there is something going on, and there's an intention to distract us and an intention to give us the sense of a feeling of disempowerment.
Hmm.
And it's a show of might
Right.
that is going to come with some other hidden something. And I say some other hidden something because the 12th house is involved. And if we're looking over here, then we're not going to pay attention to what they're doing here.
Right.
And here is the 12th house. If we're looking over there and we're focusing, oh my God, the parade, what has he done now? What will he do next? We're not going to focus on how things, how the ties, how the energy, how the actions lead to that hidden Mars
Hmm.
in the 12th house. So it is important. It's important to remember that this is not just a one directional activity. This is not something that they have planned in a one directional way, and it's not something that we need to deal with in a one directional way. The I am reminded, and I'm going to urge everyone to take a good look at the French, not revolution, but the French, what is it, resistance
Mm.
during World War II. That is what we need. Now, you can take a look at Norway and Sweden, but certainly France and Scandinavia, look at their resistance, look at how they managed it, because that's why the war was won in the favor in our favor. Let's put it this way. When I say our, I don't just mean the U.S. I mean all of those countries in Europe who were fighting against, working against this occupation by this horrible Nazi regime.
So when I think of the French resistance, what I think
Mhm,
of is all of the sort of underground activity, the
mhm,
behind the scenes activity, not the activity that says, okay, everybody, June 14th is the next 5051 uh,
mhm.
uh, demonstration. It's much more sub rosa than that.
Much more sub rosa. And at the same time, we need the people saying 50-51. We need them
Hmm.
because that's important too.
Hmm.
That literally is bringing out, but that too, we need to work the way they're working. 50-51 needs to be used as a focus or a distraction.
Oh,
And a distraction with purpose and a distraction with oomph or power
yeah,
behind it,
yeah,
because everything that 50-51 does, every time we get out there, um, it's important. That shows them something, that tells them something, and it shows us something, and it tells us something. We are not alone. We are not, it's not hopeless.
right.
We have power here. However, what we always have to do, and this is what I feel that the French resistance did and the Scandinavian resistance did, is they kept very much in mind and in sight what was really going on. And that's what you have to do. You can't say, okay, we're having this demonstration or we're doing this one thing, because when people only focus on that one thing,
They're missing
they,
everything else.
yeah, they miss everything else, and they become enamored in a sense with their own action or activity and think that that's what's solving the problem. That single thing is. It is not that. And we need to study our history and
Hmm.
the history of by that, I mean, people who want to be free. And we don't have to go back that far. We've got World War II
Right.
and we've got Europe to show us this is how they had troops on the ground in those places. And
Hmm.
they still managed to have a viable and a powerful underground
Hmm.
that was an important part of saving them
Hmm.
from what that horrible group of people wanted to do.
Hmm.
And we need to be aware of that. I feel that we have that in ways, but I don't feel that we're looking at that. We're not looking at that as an option. You have occasionally people looking at it, but to get out and to we need to be out in numbers. That shows people, uh-oh, that's really important,
Hmm.
because the people who are out are 1/10 of the people who are upset.
Right.
So the more people you can get out there, you can just go, wow, we need to, the enemy needs to be able to say, we have to go about this differently. The enemy is not going to stop doing what it's doing
Right.
at all, ever, until they're stopped, but they are going to change the way they do it, and they're going to change their timetable. And that's what we need. We need time. We need pockets of time. We need opportunities for there are things that happen because we do things, and there are things that happen because they happen. And the combination of the two is what we need to work and work with.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when I look at things like the parade. I look at the parade itself, and as I said, the parade itself was all by itself
Hmm.
in the 12th house. Wow, there's Mars and the Leo in the 12th house. And then I look at the parade around the US chart.
Hmm.
So where does that Mars, that parade, fall in the US chart? It falls in the ninth house, which is the house of expansion, the house of foreign affairs. And it's the house of, it's very much making a statement, a philosophical statement. So that Mars that's in the 12th house of its own chart, something sneaky going on here is going, we're going to see it out in the world, but if we're busy looking at the showbiz part, the Leo part, we're not going to notice what else it's doing. And what else it's doing, aside from showing the world, we think it's showing the world our might, but it's really, aside from showing the world that, yes, this is who we are, it's also distracting the world, not just us, but the world. And it's announcing, it's in the ninth house of expansion. It's announcing
Hmm.
an expansion of their philosophy, an
Right.
expansion of the actions they're taking and the actions they're willing to take.
Like Greenland
And
and Canada and all of that.
well, those are things, but it's not just those things. It's because those are play. Oh, they can say we want Canada, we want Greenland, we want Panama. They can say that, and we can go, oh my God, how could you say that? But it's more than that. It's an expansion of their intentions, what they're going to be doing, what they're going to do, the laws that they are going to pass or enact, the acts that they are going to begin doing. It's an announcement that from this day forward, expect this kind of thing. This is our example.
Hmm.
So when you ask about habeas corpus, if they speak it, they're already planning, they're already working on it. They're just, it's timing. They throw it out there, meet to the masses. If not enough people buy it, then they go, well, let's go for it.
Hmm.
If enough people scream about it, they say we need to put that over here for the time being. We're not going to, they're never going to retire any of the things that they're telling us about.
No, they're launching test balloons that will let them know when they can move forward.
Exactly. So that Mars in Leo for the parade, what kind of things does it do? Well, the on that day, that Mars, it will be together. We call it conjunct in astrology. That's together with our natal moon, which the US's birth moon. It's going to be, I'm sorry, I called it a conjunction. It's going to be an opposition.
Oh, opposition.
Mars in Leo and our moon in Aquarius. So that
Oh.
there's going to be some intense activity at the same time that's happening. That the day that we call that the transit, which is what Mars is a transit, it's moving. That day, that Mars, the day of the parade in Leo, opposition, our moon in Aquarius, squaring, and a square is an abrasive, frictional aspect, squaring the planet of who knows what's going to happen next, Uranus.
Mm.
So you've got Mars. Whoa, look at where. And then you've got our moon in Aquarius. So the mood of the people, the moon is the people and the mood of the people. The mood of the people, anything can happen,
Right.
which is ruled by the planet Uranus. So what I'm saying is it's going to be a very volatile, well
Combustible.
planned
Yes.
situation,
Okay.
well planned, and with volatility. And you mentioned, wow, are we going to have martial law? That is that's part of the plan. And they don't know exactly when it's going to start. They can certainly plan for it to start. But here you've got Uranus involved. And when Uranus and Aquarius are involved, you don't know exactly when. You simply know that it will.
Okay.
So the certainly the emotion and the volatility of a military parade. That's one. Of a military parade for a despot. That's two. And for this particular despot, that's three. Who knows what kinds of things can occur?
Hmm.
But all all that it's doing, not all that it's doing a lot. And what it's doing is it's stirring the pot in a much more, I'd say a much more energetic way.
Hmm.
And we know, and we need to keep in mind that what is happening is show business.
Hmm.
And we keep forgetting. It's important that we are aware that what's happening is the quality of our lives. That's being threatened. That they are really good at making good on their promises, but they're also good at retracting or stepping back if there's enough noise.
Hmm.
We have to be willing to stand up. Now, Uranus is the planet of the revolution and the revolutionary.
Uh-huh. Right.
Aquarius, where our moon is the sign of the revolution and the revolutionary. This is not a lock. The opposing forces, we'll call the negative forces, it's not a lock. As long as they can keep us distracted, as long as they can keep us overwhelmed, that's what they're going to go for because they know that there are way more of us than there are of them.
Let me
And
ask
the
a stupid question.
mhm, yes.
Uh, and I don't know why this occurred to me, and I sort of maybe wish that it hadn't occurred to me, but
Mhm,
hearing, revolution and revolutionary,
mhm,
I guess we could probably argue that each side can be considered in its way revolutionary.
mhm,
So, I mean, it's two revolutionary forces. It's not even so much that that side is reactionary. They are also,
mhm,
I mean, they are, but they're reactionary in a revolutionary way. They want to, bomb us back to the 1930s, let's say, for example.
mhm,
So, I I mean, isn't this, it's not, I don't know how, it just feels like it's two of the same thing,
mhm,
agendas, different aims, colliding with each other. So,
mhm,
so, and the country, let me just add, is incredibly divided.
mhm,
So when we talk about action steps,
mhm,
would these action steps, I don't know, work for them as much as they would work for us, for their side as much
mhm.
as they would for us?
Well, that's an interesting question because whenever you have a force and an opposing force, that's what you have. But if you're not careful, you'll wind up doing both sides. You'll wind up doing both siderism.
Right,
There's one side, one revolutionary force that says, "Oh my God, people are starving. We should feed them."
right.
And then you have the other side, there's the other
Wants to serve
revolutionary
them.
force saying, yes, oh my God, people are starving. Let's throw them in jail for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, yes, you have one group of people that finally gets their voice. Let's throw them in jail for being. And you have another group of people that wants to maintain their voice. Let's feed them. You're always going to have that opposition. That's what happens. But oppositions aren't necessarily about fighting each other. This one is indeed it is not about cooperation. So we don't even need to look in that direction because if
Right.
we do,
No,
we're
no,
walking off a cliff.
right.
The opposition, you've got oppositions, you've got Mars, transiting Mars the day of the parade, which, by the way, even if there weren't a parade, Mars would still be opposition moon at that time.
Mhm.
Something would be
Something.
happening. And if we were in a more positive time, there's something that would be happening. Instead of all that money being spent for a parade, maybe someone would say, let's show the greatness of our country and open food kitchens all around the country and
Okay,
spend that
okay,
those billions of dollars for food kitchens.
okay.
That's something there would be an expansive demonstration of who we are,
So kind
one
of
way or
like
the other.
how when you have like a particular sign, so I'm a Leo,
Mhm,
you have polarities in each sign. So you're
mhm.
saying that this is also a polarity. There's the good side and there's the not good side.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And there are people who are surprised when I say, oh, they have their astrologers and their psychics and their card readers too.
Mhm.
What they do? Well, how could they? Isn't it spiritual? No, it's an energy. What
Yeah,
you do with it determines whether it's spiritual or not.
right, right.
So, and at the same time, we still have we have a duty. We have a mandate. And the mandate is to stay in the light. And staying in the light can't be woo woo or airy fairy. We've got to admit what this is. What
Okay,
this
that's
is,
wait,
yes.
so that's so good because I was gonna say, and then I thought,
Mhm.
well, I don't know. I was gonna say, I mean, we're talking about good versus evil is what we're talking about.
Right. Hmm.
So staying in the light is, as you say, it's not woo woo, airy fairy, acting like we're all going to be taken up to fifth dimension, whatever.
Hmm.
But it is actively opposing the forces of evil.
Yes, that is staying in the light. That's where we are now. I've had a lot of opportunities to explore the world, the universe I live in, and it's not just planet Earth. And I've run into a lot of different souls and with different objectives. And one of the things I thought was at one point, oh, it'll all be lovely and whipped cream and apple pie and marvelous. No, it isn't. There are spiritual warriors. You
Mhm.
have to fight. You have to fight the battle and the physical on the earth plane as well as on other planes. And I have fought battles on other planes. And so does every spiritual warrior
Mhm.
because what it's always going to be about light and darkness.
Mhm.
It will always be that.
Mhm.
And you have to make a decision. If you decide I'm going to wait and see what happens, you have voted for darkness
Mhm.
because neutrality is not, there's no such thing.
No. Mhm.
And so with the parade, there are a few other things that I noticed on that day. Now, the transiting moon of that day is together with Pluto, the planet Pluto. Pluto, my God, Pluto is the planet
Yeah.
of well, death is you see, that's not even that much of what Pluto is, but people think, oh
Right.
my God, Pluto, it's death. And they also think, oh, it's sex. That's what it is. Death.
Good.
No,
Good.
it's the planet of intimacy, of really knowing your whatever, yourself, another person, the
Yeah.
issue, intimacy. Um, it is the planet of transformation. It is the planet of control. This is a control issue. The moon is the planet of the people, the public, our emotional foundation. So the moon, the people, are coming together with the planet Pluto control.
Mm.
On this day of the parade, that's what's going on. This is to get control of the people, not so much by look at all these, but by the effect they can have.
Mhm.
Because the moods of the people, the moon, this is big meat thrown to the masses.
Mhm.
So when you look at the moon, and it's in the seventh house, its own seventh house. I'm sorry, its own fifth house. The fifth house is the stage. The show is playing out on this stage. It's a stage, and
Mhm.
this is a show. And this is really set to, again, all those people, all that money, all that craziness is set to get everybody upset. It's set to get everybody feeling helpless and hopeless. And it's also set, of course, to encourage this person's base.
Right.
But the focus is we keep saying him, his person, him. It's not him. He's simply a figurehead. It's them, the oligarchs. And you
And
have to look.
Project 2025. Yes.
Yes, back to 2025, exactly that project, and back to the founding fathers.
Hmm.
Remember, a group of business people slash slave owners with lofty ideas who were protecting their bottom line.
I thought
That's
what you
what this
said
is.
the last time you were on, I think that's the thing that stayed with me the
Mhm.
most is that the very founding of the country that we're meant to say, rah, rah, this was great, was, I mean, ultimately corrupt in this capitalistic way. That it's about money and power
Mhm.
and control and who gets to call the shots and who doesn't.
Right. And it's about their money. It's
Yeah,
about their power. It's
yeah,
about their control. Because the founding fathers, when they came up with these wonderful, lofty ideas, they didn't come up with them for everybody.
no,
If you weren't, no matter what color you were, if you weren't rich, That didn't include you. You couldn't even vote. You
Right,
weren't a landowner. If you were a person of color, any color, they didn't mean you.
right.
And if you were a woman, they didn't mean you.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what they're taking it. They want to take it back to
Back
that
to that.
very same
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm. Well, that's
So,
why that whole thing about uh, women have to, who have taken their husband's name
yes.
and now they can't vote because their social security card is not the same as their, which they got when they were children, is not the
Mhm.
same as what their driver's license, for example. So,
Right.
and that's a
And
way.
they can't even get a driver's license now.
No, that's right. That's right.
Mhm.
Okay.
So this it's yes, it's called the Save Act. It's not saving anything. It's destroying something. And so we need to look at the big picture. We need to be aware, and we also need to tell ourselves the truth about how war works. This is war,
Yep.
and we need to tell ourselves the truth about it. We have been so deluded by the fantasy of what the US is.
Hmm.
What we have, the US is a great possibility and a great opportunity. However, it's never lived up to it. And Neptune is very strong in the US chart. Neptune is very strong in all of the transiting charts that I've done.
Is that
We also
delusion?
have, I'm sorry, what did you
That
say?
is Neptune delusion or
A
like,
Neptune is many things, including delusion, illusion, spirituality, even.
mhm,
But Neptune is the fog.
yeah, the
You
fog.
can't, if you've ever driven through fog, you can't really see.
Yeah.
And you just hope, pardon me, you hope for the best.
Mhm.
I remember driving through fog once and I heard something and I thought, I think that sort of sounds like could be a semi, a truck. And when I realized I was literally about this far away from the truck. The truck was in the opposite lane, had drifted towards me. I had
Oh,
drifted towards it, and we were this far apart. We couldn't see each other until we got to within 7 or 8 inches of each other.
yeah,
So that's the fog.
yeah.
That's what fog is. And as I said, Neptune is very prominent. It's as a matter of fact, is it the most? It is the yeah. Neptune is the highest planet in the US's chart. So the story we spin is those are the that's the fog we live in.
Right.
Other people buy it, we buy it. But remember, it's a yarn, and the yarn is going to fall apart at some point.
Mhm.
It's not that it's bad. Neptune is, it's you need it. It's spirituality too, but we need to understand what it is and how it works.
Mhm.
It's great for creation. Oh, I have a marvelous idea, a great thought. Now we have to put practical application to that. And the US has that too. Will they use it? Will we last long enough? I don't know. And I say I don't know because where we are is we again it says in the US chart, we have the power to strip them, the oligarchs, of what they consider power. We have that. But people are too quiet, people are too complacent. And even people who need to be saying something. I mean, if Bruce Springsteen can get out and say it, and if Pete Buttigieg can get out and say it, and if AOC and Bernie can get up and say it, then why can't certain other people who at this point will remain nameless, but we know who they are? I haven't heard from some of these people except via an email asking me for money.
Yeah.
And that's no. One or two of the people who could get up could lead us right into being rid of these people. And they are noticeably quiet.
You know what?
So, what?
A lot of people talk about uh, us returning to the place that we were during the Civil War. And
Mhm,
it makes me think what you just said, it puts me in mind of Lincoln saying, oh, how do we deal with the South? Let them up easy. What?
mhm.
And which is a lot of why we're where we are now, because the South was not, you know,
No,
they paid no penalty.
no,
So now here
they,
we are sort of repeating in a concentric
mhm.
way because you have voices that we don't hear that should be speaking up, that should be, I mean, he should,
Yes, exactly. I know where you were going, but
yeah,
yes, exactly. It's too quiet. Why they're so my question is, what's in it for them to stay quiet?
Right. Right.
Because
Power
we
and
need to look at, and that's Pluto is the honest, unvarnished truth. Pluto also, it rules healing, which we desperately need, and it rules the truth, the ultimate truth.
mhm,
And the ultimate truth is and Pluto also rules money and values.
mhm,
So what are you getting by being quiet? What
mhm,
are you getting by not speaking the truth? What are
mhm.
you getting by not showing up? We need to not focus on that because that's, again, more meat for the masses.
Right.
We need to be aware that that's going on.
Right.
And at
Right.
the same time, we need to be operating as though we are under siege because we are.
Right.
And as I remember during the LA insurrection, some people call it the riots after Rodney King, there were certain sections of the city that you went into, and there were armed soldiers patrolling the streets.
Yeah.
That was mind blowing. And but at the same time, you could say, let's go up to Ventura and have lunch, and it would be a beautiful sunny day, and people would be strolling around shopping and having lunch. And I remember being there with a friend, and we had the same thought at the same time, and we looked at each other and said, "You would never know that a half an hour away from here, this is going on."
Yeah.
Well, there's too much of people going, nobody stopped me from going to the grocery store. I'm fine. No, it's happening, even if it's not happening on your block, it's happening.
Mhm,
And we need to treat this that way.
mhm,
So, as I look at the chart, I'd like to talk a bit about the chart and the inauguration, the planets, and how those can affect and how they are affecting our country, our way of being. So, the transiting Neptune, that means the day of the inauguration, was in the sign opposite and the degree exactly opposite the US's Neptune. A lie was being told.
mm, yeah.
And that lie had there's because an opposition isn't necessarily always it's you can a lie is kind of like a weight or a barbell,
Mhm,
and you can use that to strengthen.
mhm,
And so this lie that was being told is being used to strengthen. This opposition of Neptune to Neptune will reveal the truth if you look at it. And it also invites corruption. And in our case, because we have Neptune in the US chart in the ninth house of foreign matters, it invites foreign corruption.
mhm,
What are we dealing with now except an airplane that, and
mm.
that's only what we can see because
That's
there
right.
is corruption. Because Neptune, remember, is the fog.
Right.
Then the US is about the money, period.
Yep.
Second house, that's where Pluto is the second house is our money,
Yep.
what we value. And that's what we're about. We're never going to not be about the money, but we can use that money according to the value we place on ourselves and on our way of life.
Mhm,
And that money has been used against us because it was always the oligarchs who
right.
were telling us what was of value. Then we have the transiting moon on the day of the inauguration. So wherever the moon is, it's like I said, it's the people, it's the mood of the people, it's the emotional and spiritual foundation. That moon was conjunct or together with the planet Saturn. Saturn is structure, it's responsibility. Saturn is the government. Saturn, it's the rules. Saturn rules the rules.
Mhm,
And wherever Saturn is where you must have structure and where the rules are important. And so that moon, when the moon and Saturn come together in any kind of chart, whenever they come together, the moon, the fire of the moon or the light of the moon is going to be put out by the heaviness of Saturn. So it's foretold on the day of the inauguration that Saturn and the moon are going to come together and the people are going to be, there will be an attempt to suppress the people.
mhm. Well,
That is, that's an objective. That's raw energy. Now, at the same time, that raw energy of attempting to suppress the people doesn't have to happen because we have that transiting moon. We have a grand. A grand is you have three, you have all of the elements working together. We have a grand trine
So that's a good,
between what did you say?
right? That's good, right?
Oh, it's good. It's great. We all should want one. I would love to have one, don't have one, but I see a lot of them in charts and go, wow, what's it like,
Mhm.
to be a favorite person? So the US has a grand trine. It's not forever, but it is that this inauguration brought the grand trine in. That means we have an opportunity, but we must use the opportunity.
Right.
Another thing that I noticed was that the transiting ascendant, because there's always a rising sign or ascendant, the transiting ascendant was together with, conjunct, the US's Chiron. Chiron is not a planet, but Chiron is a very important place. It's
Yeah.
a placement. And Chiron represents in astrology your soul wound,
So is this an
not your soul's wound.
opportunity to heal that wound then?
The opportunity, first of all, wherever Chiron is in anyone's chart, is a mandate. This must be healed. When with the ascendant, which is the start of something, the way we initiate action, move forward, sitting there on the soul, US's soul wound, that's what this is about. This journey is about healing that soul wound.
Can I ask
That's
you
what.
though a question about
Yeah.
Chiron? Because
Mm-hmm,
I understood, I mean, you know, Sheila, I don't really know what I'm saying,
mm-hmm,
but I understood that a chironic wound, in fact,
mm-hmm,
is unhealable. That
mm-hmm,
it's something that you can work with maybe to help others who
mm-hmm,
are feeling that, but that the wound itself in you
mm-hmm.
remains. So
Interesting.
I mean, how do we reconcile that with, is this a,
Well, I
yeah,
hear what you're saying, but so I would also like to correct you. When you said, how do we I would say, I don't need to reconcile that. I would say what I would do, what I'm going to say to people is if you view, because in a way, it's kind of saying it's hopeless and there's no use. In a way, it's kind of giving you that information. Chiron's wound, he was wounded in the hip. He was the wounded healer. And his wound never stopped aching. But what did he do with his wound? He stopped focusing on his wound and he began to teach other people how to deal with their wounds.
okay,
Your wound is there
got it.
so that you can say, "Oh my God, I don't want anybody else to feel this.
Got
Here's how you." And when if you're doing that, you're not focusing on your wound. Your wound's not bothering you.
Right. And so we have had this wound for example, the great original wound of race and
Yeah.
slavery.
Mhm,
And our ancestors, that was painful to them. And we are
mhm,
suffering the consequences as a result. But
mhm.
um, one of the things that we've never done, of course, is acknowledged that wound as a
Yes.
country. So acknowledging
Mhm.
it, I mean, that's the first step, saying, oh, look, there's a wound.
Yes, that is the first.
Okay, and so that moving forward, the goal is that we addressing this wound,
Mhm.
it will become less painful, less deep for our children and their children and their children's children.
Well, for us, even, you have to address the wound. You're right. The wound must be addressed. It's pretty much like we're walking around with this gaping hole in our forearm.
Right.
I mean, it's festering and it smells and it's really awful. Well, we're pretending it's not there, but it's staining our clothes. It's just awful. And if we turn to address the wound and go, oh my God, look at that wound, we've got to do something. First, the wound. So that's acknowledging there's a wound. That's good. The next thing you have to do is you must clean the wound.
And that's
That
painful.
hurts.
Yeah.
That's
And
painful,
nobody
but
wants to
it's
do that.
necessary.
Right.
Nobody wants to face
That's
that
why
pain.
that's why he says America
Mhm.
will be woke no more, because it's when you're
Yes.
woke that you say, "Oh, let's abride this wound. Let's pour the hydrogen peroxide in this wound. Let's
Yeah.
clean this wound out." Now,
Let's clean it.
to move forward a little bit with this wound analogy,
Mhm.
I'm gathering that what you're saying is kind of like uh, I don't know, somebody who breaks an arm. And so
Mhm.
the arm is set, it's put in a cast, and that was painful when they had to whatever.
Right. Mhm.
And forever, even though they get the cast off, they can move the arm, they can throw a ball, but when the rain comes, they know in advance because their arm aches.
There's
So
always something.
it is
Yes.
always going to be there, but what you
Mhm.
don't have is this jagged bone sticking out of your skin.
Right. Exactly. You're
Yeah,
not a mess,
yeah.
and you're alerted by the change in the atmosphere that something is happening.
Which is a good
Well,
thing. Yes.
that's a very good thing. Yes. So we have to stop trying to avoid, and it's very interesting that because we as a nation want to avoid pain. We
Yes, we
just
do.
do.
Hmm.
We've got a painkiller for everything,
Hmm.
and we've got these marvelous fairy tales that we tell,
Hmm.
and everybody, oh, we can all, and we just want to avoid pain.
I have had
We don't want to
many
deal with it.
people on my channel, not lately, but early on. One of the common questions would be, when is this going to be over? The theory being
Mhm.
that if they have to, they can kind of gird their loins and steel themselves if you give them a date certain for when it's over. And my answer always was, it'll be over when we all decide that it's time for
Mhm.
it to be over. But the only way around it is through it.
Through it.
And we're not even in the chute yet to go
No,
through it. Yeah.
no, because too many people are having great lunches. I'm all in favor of great lunches. Too many people are saying it's not my responsibility. Yes, it is. If you're here and you're breathing, it is. And too many people are also saying, look, we'll get to it when it really comes to us. Well, by the time it comes to you, by the time they're marching down your main street, it's way late, if not too late. So, and to the people who think, wow, we just have to wait it out for 4 years. No, this is not a 4 year plan.
No.
This is a forever plan.
Yes.
And the longer you wait, the more the more permission you give them to enact and their plan and to disconnect you from the things, the way of thinking, the way of feeling that from the people out there the people drive by and honk their horns at the demonstrators. I think it's great that they drive by and that they honk their horns. I also want to know why they're not out there.
Yeah.
Why
Well,
didn't you stop your car and join us?
I'm telling you, if you're black, I'm just
Mhm.
saying, stay home. I'm just saying.
Well, if you can do it that way, I think everybody will have to do. There are ways you can certainly, if you're home and you're not in the streets, there are a million different ways that you can be a part of the organization. The underground is what they called it.
That's right.
You can be a part of that,
That's right. I said
but
that in
you don't
my
have to be in the
Substack.
street.
That's right. I said that in
I am
my
a person. I'm an in the street person. That's me. I'm going to show up because I understand how it works, and they're going to take any excuse they can. You
right.
could say, "Oh my God, they don't have enough black and brown bodies, so they're not going to enact martial law." No, they'll find a reason. Don't
Find a reason.
worry.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what color the bodies are. The fact that there are bodies is what they don't like.
Hmm.
So we have to understand we're under siege. We have to understand there is no relief date. My God, we'll have another election and no, that's not it. The only way we will get to another election, which is a viable election, is we have to be out in the street now screaming.
Yeah.
We have to undermine their efforts. And if we don't undermine their efforts, then we've said something. Because here as an astrologer, there are 12 houses. And in astrology, it's about opposites. That's one of the main things. We use twos, threes, and fours. And it's about opposites. And so if it's happening over here on this side, it's happening directly opposite on that side. It
Mhm.
has to. That's how it works. So for me, the axis is the second house, my value, the eighth house, your value. And
Oh,
my value and your value is a way of saying, I respect myself, I respect you. And that's why wars are fought because somebody's not respecting somebody. That's what it's really about.
I,
So,
well, you know what? And the example that comes to mind, I like to say it at every opportunity, is Israel and Palestine. Israel will say,
yes.
we are the children of light. How are you going to be the
Mhm.
children of light and bomb hospitals and starve children? who
There you are.
because you're telling yourself that they're the children of
You're
dark.
telling yourself that it's okay to do what you're
Okay,
doing
because they're
because
not
you want
really.
to do it. And therefore, because you want to do it, you're the children of light. Regardless of who you are, again, it's just another form of what we're seeing everywhere in one way or another. You talk about a personal relationship that's abusive. Same
Mhm.
thing, two people
Right.
abusive. You can talk about an entire nation. You can talk about an entire people.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you're not out feeding people who are hungry, what are you doing?
Right. Right.
And this second to eighth house axis is really the US is that's how the US is weighted. It's second to eighth house.
Hmm.
It is my value, your value. It's your
Hmm.
value, my value.
Hmm.
And if we don't deal with my value, your value correctly, we have what we have now. Some this lopsided, abusive situation that it's like a monster that's insatiable monster that keeps needing to feed. And it needs to feed off us and off our energy and off our hopes. It needs to just totally turn the lights out. And it is so important to recognize that if I don't recognize my value, I am not going to recognize yours. And the people who are eaters of the dark are people who don't recognize their value. They think that other people are taking from them.
Yeah.
They're busy counting peas on other people's plates
Right.
instead of focusing on what's on theirs.
Hmm.
And the people who are of the light are not busy enough protecting their plates from people who would come in and take regardless. You can share your plate, but at a certain point, you have a responsibility to say, this person isn't about sharing.
You're
This
about
person
taking.
is about, yes.
Yeah.
So we're here. That's part of what we're here doing. And I've got some other notes here. Oh, what we're experiencing is a karmic event.
Mm.
Transiting Mars in let's just call it the day of the inauguration. Transiting Mars was in the US's eighth house. The eighth house is Pluto's house. The
Okay.
eighth house is the house of past lives, the house of karmic events. It's many things to talk about. It's the depth, it's the fathomless depth of life in our life. The
Hmm.
eighth house, no matter whose chart. So on that day, at that time, transiting Mars was right there. It's right there in the sign. What sign? Cancer. The US is a Cancer country.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's together. Transiting Mars is at 24 degrees. It's at a certain point, Cancer, which is where the US's Mercury is, also in the eighth house. We do know. We just want to pretend we don't know.
Hmm.
But our Mercury is in the eighth house of I know everything.
Hmm.
And so Mars came along, and Mars, that arrow, hit Mercury and said, come on, it's time. Now we have to live with it.
Yeah.
And so that's happening. At the same time that's happening, this transiting Mars is opposition our natal and progressed Pluto. So while we're going, wake up, the part of us that is up, there's nobody's really asleep.
Mm.
And it's now.
Hmm.
It's a karmic event. This is an idea whose time has come. And we were going to always have that transit if we had voted, and we did vote, but if those votes had been counted in in an honorable way, we would still have this awakening and this need to awaken, but we would be doing something about that.
Hmm.
Instead, that's being used to bludgeon everyone, including the people who think, oh, this is all working well for me. No,
Hmm.
it's actually not. If you aren't one of the top eight people in the world, it's not working for you.
That's
And
right.
it's not going to. So those are some of the things I would say, and I do say, and I'll say it again. Focus on focus on what's really happening.
Hmm.
Understand that the meat for the masses, that's important, but don't follow, the toss of the meat and
Right.
get over there with the masses.
Right. Because then you're
And
ignoring everything else.
you're ignoring it. And find out who threw the meat.
Hmm.
Why did they choose that meat?
right.
And what are they standing in front of that they don't want us to see?
So, okay, and I've heard this red meat argument. So for example,
Mhm,
Jake Tapper from CNN has a new book
mhm,
out. Somebody else has a book out, but it's about how Joe Biden really was more infirm than he
mhm,
should have been, we'll just say, and that
mhm,
everybody knew it and that nobody did anything about it.
mhm.
And therefore we are where we are. Um, that's red meat as well, because the bottom
Yeah.
line, we are where we are. And so
Mhm,
if we're busy looking backward at Uncle Joe and who
mhm,
held him up, and
mhm.
then we're not paying attention to the orange monster at the head of the class.
You're not paying attention to it, and it's also helping the oligarchs.
That's right.
So the thing is, people keep thinking, they love thinking this, that that person standing there
Mhm.
is the person. That person standing there
It's a
is the poster.
figurehead. It's like you
It's
said.
the
Yes.
breathing, living, breathing poster
Mhm.
who represents all of the people that have propped that person up.
That's right.
That's it. We fortunately had somebody who was being propped up who wanted people to feed children for the most part.
Mhm.
Yes, there were some negative things, but there always will be because that's the way things are. However, to focus on the fact, oh, he could hardly, nobody's talking about how infirmed Reagan was. It
That's right.
was just really, there were times people would go into his office and he would have his toy cowboy guns, and he would be playing Western hero with his news media. They all got together and made an
Besides.
agreement with themselves to keep, we don't want to alarm the public
Hmm.
when we should have been told.
Hmm.
So everybody is in it for whatever they're in it for, and Jake Tapper is in it because
He's
he
writing a
wants,
book. He wrote a book. He wants to get paid. Yeah.
not only wants to get paid, but this is the side, this is, he's willing to sell himself or his soul for this. That's the choice he made. For us to focus on that, just, oh my God, so and so, she has a run in her stocking, is way more important than, oh look, he's just declared war.
Yep.
And that's called distraction. It's meat for the masses, and the masses have to decide what they're going to be fed. And the masses, no matter how hungry, have to make the choice to either go after the meat or say, no, that meat is poison. I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to put my energy here.
Hmm.
We are at the point where we must make those choices. We have pronounced statements from the moon, the people, the mood of the people, from Mars, the action we take. We have Pluto, the transformation, the healing that needs to occur. And Uranus is the revolution, and everybody's conveniently forgetting Uranian energy. It's the revolution.
Hmm.
When Uranus goes into the sign Gemini, which I believe will be at the very latest in July,
Okay.
as you said, oh, it's going to be a hot summer. Yes, it is,
Okay.
because that's when it gets hot.
Yeah.
Because Uranus is now in the sign of Gemini, the sign of Mercury, the sign of talk, of communication. Now people are talking. Right now it's in Taurus and things are seething.
Hmm.
But when it gets into the sign, an air sign, a communication sign, that's when things are going to take off. Certain bills are going to be forced through by then, certain proclamations.
Hmm.
So all of the things that you think can't possibly happen, instead of thinking that, I keep telling people, read Project 2025.
Right. That's
And
right.
also pay attention to the fact that this group of people always tell you what they're going to do
That's
because they
right.
literally just tell you what they're going to do.
That's right.
So, yeah, that's kind
So
of how,
you're
that's
in
where
for a
we are.
wild ride. The other thing I noticed, I mean, you keep talking about the people, the people, the people, and it does put me very much in mind of the French Revolution.
Mhm.
Uh, and I know that I think lots of countries, I guess, do this, but America loves its heroes. So one of the things that is happening is people are saying, well, who's on the other side? who one person is going to be, the counterpoint to that point,
Mhm.
and that we can all rally behind. And I'm gathering that Pluto and Aquarius, I mean, I'm gathering that there will not be a single figurehead behind which we can all coalesce, that we ourselves are it.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
We ourselves, yes, we ourselves are it. And true to the nature of life on Earth, there will be a figurehead or two or three who show up because we as a species insist on that. So that's our show and tell.
Hmm.
And there will be people showing up,
Hmm.
but we can't sit and wait for them to show up
Oh,
before we go, oh, that's one. No, we have to be doing it. We have to be a part of the underground. We have to be working and networking. We have to be doing the work. And through doing the work, you'll notice, I know so and so really shows up a lot. Through doing the work, you'll begin to recognize who's showing up. Otherwise, you're just taking somebody else's word for it. I'm a good guy.
right. Well, and they exactly, and they may have their own self-interest, but
Mhm.
Pluto and Aquarius means that these leaders will also be led by the people. In other words,
They
when they
will be
see
led by,
people
yes,
coalescing, then they'll step forward because first of all, it's safer to do that because now
mhm,
you've got people who will go in the direction that you want to lead them in.
right. Mhm.
Um, but also, what's a good thing is that they will take their direction from the people. They're going to have to.
Yes. And thank you for putting it that way because that's it. And they were meant to take their direction from the people.
Right.
In the US chart, the moon is in the sign of the people of Aquarius, which is in the sign of large groups of people, freedom loving people.
Hmm.
In the third house, which is the house of our environment.
Hmm.
We are communicators. We're meant to be communicated with, and we are meant to also speak our minds, and we're meant to show up. We're
Yeah.
the rabble that they were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but with the rabble in a positive way, we're meant to show up and we're meant to be loud
Hmm.
because that's the only way things will change.
Right.
We have Pluto, as I said before, has now entered the sign of Aquarius. And if we thought Pluto in Capricorn was rough, Pluto in Aquarius. And when you think about it, even here in the States, we talk about the American Revolution, but we don't talk about it nearly as much as we and everybody else in the world talks about the French Revolution.
That's right. That's right.
And that was Pluto and Aquarius. That was the people.
Okay.
And we got there. We're here now. So there's some awful things, there's some ugly things, there's some ugly things coming along. But those ugly things only they can have power, but they can't maintain power unless we either sit quietly and let it happen, or unless we help it, we actively help it.
Hmm. Hmm.
If we are not opposing it, we are helping.
Helping. That's right.
Yes,
No, this was
it's
really good.
mhm,
I mean, things are scary, but it's also
mhm,
exciting. And we chose to come here to do this work now.
yes,
We're not some bad luck accident that just happened to have come
mhm,
now instead of, I don't know, some calmer period in time. We chose to come here for this.
yes. That's it. Whether we like it or not, we said that's where I'm supposed to be. I definitely do not like this.
Mhm.
However, I know that I'm here because it's where I'm supposed to be. So
Exactly. Well, so now
mhm,
thank you for all of that. I think
you're welcome.
I'm hoping that it gave people courage and inspiration
Yes.
and
Mhm.
uh, and everybody get your beauty sleep because you're going to be staying awake all summer. But
Yes.
speaking of where we're going to be, can you tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about your upcoming trip and how people?
Yes, I can, and I'm happy to. But before I go there, I'm going to say it one more time. We are meant to win. See it astrologically. I feel it as an intuitive person. We're meant, and as a historian, we're meant to win.
Okay.
We can only win if we get out there.
Hmm. Hmm.
They are not meant to win.
Hmm.
So, having said that, yes, in October, I am taking a group of people. to France. We start in the south of France with where the Knights Templar were, and we're going to have an interaction with Mary Magdalene,
Oh,
and then we're going to move through the countryside, and we're going to go to Chartres Cathedral and walk the oldest labyrinth. And it is, I have walked it, and I can't tell, I mean, I could tell you, but you'd have to feel it. What it's an experience and a half.
hmm.
It's like, wow, that really is happening. And then we end in Paris. Now, along the way, there will be many adventures, spiritual adventures. They're all spiritual. To me, a spiritual adventure is fine dining too. A spiritual adventure is going shopping. A spiritual adventure opportunity is going to a cathedral or to a any sacred space. It's being fully engaged. And I can't think of a more dedicated country to that kind of living than France. And so we wind up spending the last few days, it's altogether 10 days. The last 4 or 5 days will be in Paris.
Okay.
So,
And there'll be
wow.
information on all of that in the links that I will put in.
Yes, if you go to my website, SheilaHite.com, it's right there on the first page. If you read about it, there's all the information you need, and there's a way to contact me for further clarification. But
So this
yeah,
is a great
it's going to be
opportunity,
great.
and I know my viewers were really in love with you the first time you came on. So just
Mhm.
imagine 10 days with Sheila Hite.
Yes, imagine. And I will say for myself, because it's true, magical things happen when you travel with me. Just phenomenal things. And I always write about those things later. And if you go to my website, you'll also find the tales of my trips. Take a look at the one to Spain or the ones to Scotland or the ones to Sedona, but definitely take a look at the one to Egypt.
Mm,
That was there things happened on that you know, wow, that actually is happening. A statue. We know it's a statue, stone. You've got your eyes closed, it's a slightly dark room, you hear something, and you open your eyes, and that statue is right, I mean, literally 2 inches from your face. Like you're going, oh my God. And it's not just me. Before I went in, I heard, oh my God, from whoever was in before me. And I thought, huh, wonder what that was. These people came out and went, oh my, you have no idea what happened. And they went away. I went in, and when I opened my eyes, I didn't say anything, but I was, because that's what it was. That statue
there
has
was
just,
no man
that's it.
behind it pushing it forward or
Nope, 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 none of that. This is happening. This is happening to you, and it's talking to you. So that's only one of the things that happens. Things like that they happen on my journeys. I call them odysseys because that's what they are. You're going home.
anything. Hmm. Hmm.
So yes, I certainly encourage you, come along.
And in this revolutionary period that we are in the middle of, what better refresher course, right, than to go to France, which has
Yes,
quite the example for us in having.
exactly. Quite the example.
Mhm.
And it's exactly that. It's so much about, I didn't plan this. Of course, I had this great idea, but it was an idea that was given to me, and it's all been laid out. And people have said, well, do you think now is the time? And now is the
Oh, is
best
it
time.
time? Absolutely.
Yes. You need to be reminded that you are way more than somebody is trying to convince you you aren't.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, and France is always a good idea. Paris, as Audrey Hepburn said, Paris is always a good idea. Even if you don't feel well, you're not feeling well in Paris.
If you didn't fall in love with Paris during the Olympics,
Mhm.
opening and closing ceremonies, you might want to. I mean, something's wrong with you.
Yes, and the cure for that is come along with me and we'll help you fix that. So, yes, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
Paris is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I don't know. I might have to sign up. We'll see.
Yes, well, come along. You will definitely not regret it, and you'll love it, and you will laugh about everything that's happened for the rest of your life. It'll be great.
All right. I'll think about it.
Mm.
Sheila,
Okay,
thank you so much for
you're
coming back.
welcome.
I know I will have you here again, as someone who can help shepherd us through this time and make sense of it astrologically and historically. And I really appreciate you coming back.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate your inviting me. And I love this conversation we're having because that's what we all need to be doing.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. Well, listen, you all have a wonderful Sunday, and I will see you during the week. Again, get your beauty sleep because
Mhm.
summer is coming.
Yes,
Right.
summer is
Take
coming.
care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.